Welcome to the Bookish Hour with your hosts, Sarah E. Burr and J.C. Kenney.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Bookish Hour. I am one of your co-hosts, Sarah Burr.
And I'm your other co-host and Sarah's sidekick, JC Kenney. So, hey, let's get bookish.
Let's get bookish. Tonight we've got a wonderful show for you guys. We're so excited to be joined by USA Today bestselling author Nan Reinhardt. Nan, thank you so much for being here. I have connected with you via social media. I know JC, you guys have a great history together, so we can't wait to dive in and chat about your writing, your books, and all that you have going on. And if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving our audience members just a brief introduction to you, and then we'll get the show started.
Well, I am Nan Reinhardt, and I'm a romance author with Thule Publishing. I write sweet small town romance, and I'm a wife and a mom and a grandmother, and I'm also a freelance copy editor. That's my day job. And I copy edit mostly romance. So I write it and I fix it. And that's pretty much it.
I know that JC and I are both really excited to have you here because you are our first romance author guest, and we can't wait to dive into that and really kind of get to the meat of everything. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you guys tonight about writing and romance and all kinds of fun things like that, especially Christmas romance, because that's what we're all about right now.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you have a new book out.
I do indeed.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about it, please.
Well, it is The Fireman's Christmas Witch. And of course, it's backwards in the camera, but it's a cool cover anyway. And it's the third book in my Lang Brothers series, and it's also the seventh book of stories from River's Edge, Indiana, the little town down on the Ohio River that is mostly in my imagination, but if you've ever been to Madison, Indiana, you probably know River's Edge. It's the story, the oldest brother, Becker, who is the fire chief in town, and Harley Cole, the nursery school teacher in town. And she's it's kind of a sunshine, grumpy sort of romance. He's kind of a grumpy guy. He doesn't really want to be involved in Christmas. He's just not in the spirit. And Harley decides that he needs to be. And so she starts what she calls the Becker Lang Project. And she's going to get him into Christmas. And it turns out to be interesting for her. And there's also a couple of little side stories for both of them. His dad returns after about 10 years of being away, and her mother is in a nursing home memory care unit with Alzheimer's. And so the two of them have things, in their lives that they can both kind of relate to with each other. But the whole town's involved in Christmas, and it's just, a feel-good Christmas small town story.
I love so as writing cozy mysteries, I really identified with the small town aspect of River's Edge, and like getting to know the characters and the different places that Harley and Beck visit when they're kind of going on their little Christmas adventures, which totally put me in the Christmas spirit. I was reading, I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I'm reading it now at this time of year, because it's so atmospheric and so just heartwarming.
Oh, I'm so glad you found it that way. It was really fun to invent these things to have happen at Christmas time. In Aidan Flaherty's book, I think that's book 3 in the Forest Brothers Winery series, he buys an old showboat and fixes it up and puts it back on the river. And one of the things that That's this one. And one of the things that he does there every Christmas Eve
I
is he
have
has
two
a
others,
party.
but not that one.
We need to get you that one, Jim.
Yeah.
He has a Christmas Eve party. And so that becomes a really big thing in the Fireman's Christmas Wish, is that the Christmas Eve party is kind of like where they finally discover their feelings for each other. And so and it was a big deal in that book, and it has become a big deal in this book, but also in the other books. The Showboat is sort of a fun place for people to gather, as well as Max Diner. And so all the people that were in the Flaherty Brothers show up in the Lang Brothers books, and will show up in the ensuing books that are coming along. So the little town is growing, and you just get to know all the secondary characters, and some of them get a story and some of them don't. So it's fun. It's fun to create those. I know you guys know that because you write cozy mysteries that happen in small towns, and the secondary characters just become like part of the setting almost.
I think that's one of like the best parts about it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that in reading The Fireman's Christmas Wish, because I am reading it because real guys read romance.
That's right.
Yeah, is one of the things that had occurred to me is, again, because most folks who have been on the show and have been tuning in kind of may think of this as a mystery show. But, we're all things bookish. And so, Nan, with you as our first romance author, could you talk a little bit about the romance genre in general? Because I think one of the things that I found is that, with the traditional mystery or the cozy mystery, and as Sarah said, with kind of the sweet contemporary romance that you write, there are a lot of similarities in how story structure and creating community. So I'll stop talking. Why don't you talk a little bit about that from your perspective?
Well, as you know, I'm both a writer and an editor, and I do a lot of editing of cozy mysteries, and I love them for the same reason I love writing small town romance, because you can, the town becomes a setting, the setting becomes a character almost, and the people in the town become part of the setting, and they become like familiar old friends. And I think that series are really popular right now in romance, as they probably are in cozy as well, because a lot of the cozies that I have been editing are part of a series. This same person comes through, carries through each book. I think that there is an expectation in romance that you're going to get that happily ever after, which is what we're all about, of course. And but you're there not so much because you already know what's going to happen, but because you're there for the journey. The journey is why we read these. And if the romance has some secondary stories in it, or if the characters have some special, unique circumstances, it really brings the reader in. And I think that a lot of romances now are really, I think the Hallmark thing has just taken off for romance. And I think a lot of people, that's what they want to read. They want that feel good. They want that happily ever after. They want, the handsome hero and the pretty little heroine, but they also get involved in their stories. I've been so surprised by the emails and things that I read from people on Facebook, comments and things about, when is so and so going to get their story, or are you ever going to do a story about, and that has been really fun as far as writing romance is concerned. But I think romance is a huge industry, and in a huge bookish industry. And I think it's going to remain so, because so many of us just really love that place to escape. And I think the same is true of cozies. It's a great place to escape.
I will be the first to admit that when I'm reading, I don't tend to read romances. And having read yours, I was like, why don't I read these more? Because they are this like beautiful, just like a nice escape that doesn't involve murder. And sometimes it's nice to like take a breather from all forms of darkness and really just enjoy that ride. And that's like, just you feel like you're walking hand in hand with these characters as they're on their journey and, helping them with their struggles. And it's really, I think it's really beautiful and really uplifting. So I'm very glad that I got to experience it, because I will definitely want to seek that out again.
I think that a lot of people think, oh, it's just this formula. They just write to a formula. And, yeah, we do. The formula is happily ever after. And that's where we're headed. And, but you're not there. As I said, you're not there for that. You're there for the journey. And every single story is different. Even if, you're doing the tropes like, this is Grumpy and Sunshine, and this is Dr. Romance. And, then we've got the bad boy and the sweet little girl, not little girl, but the sweet girl. And, there are so many different tropes and, hidden babies and all those things. But the bottom line is this: you become involved with the characters as you read them. And you're there, as I said before, you're there for the journey. And the journey is just always so fun, even though we know what's going to happen in the end. It doesn't matter that we know what's going to happen in the end any more than we know that your detective or whoever is going to figure out who did it, Yeah. You're there for the journey. And I think that's really, for both of our genres, I think that's really what it is. We're there for the journey.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're a little bit in, want to take a second and say hello to everybody who is joining in. Want to do a few shout outs. We like to kind of say thank you to the folks who've dropped greetings in the chat. So Mark, DHB, Laura, Chelsea, Liz, Flaherty. Hi, Liz. Wade Naris, Regina Williams, and Chelsea. Thank you all for checking in with us. We really appreciate it. And thanks for coming along. Some names are familiar, a lot are new. And so we're glad to have you here as we kind of chat with Nan. So Nan, kind of along that line, you mentioned that in addition to a romance writer, that you're an editor. So yes. One of the things that blows my mind is, can you talk about how you are able, and you're obviously an avid reader as well.
Yes, very much.
How do you separate how are you able to enjoy writing and reading with the fact that you're also an editor and you have to kind of be picky when you're doing the editing gig?
Well, I have to confess to you that I cannot always turn the editor off when I'm reading. When I'm reading for pleasure, sometimes the editor kicks in, and then if the book is something that's just really going to annoy the editor, I have to set it aside. But I think that I have to compartmentalize. I really do think that's what it is. And I have to be careful about reading romance when I'm working on a book. Like when I'm in the throes of, I've got 15,000 words left and because I think you have a tendency to pull other people's voices in when you read. I don't know if you guys do that, but I think a lot of people do that. And so I have to be real aware of what I'm writing. And fortunately, I have great critique partners in Liz and and a couple of other friends from romance writers who will, jerk my chain if they catch me doing that, or if they just, about anything really. But being an editor, I think that being a writer of romance and being a reader of romance makes me a better writer of romance, editor of romance, because I know what I'm looking for. I can, and really most of what I do, because I'm a line editor, a copy editor, I'm not really looking for the story as much as I'm looking for the grammar and the spelling and the structure. And if he has, green eyes at the beginning of the book and we get to page 52 and his eyes are blue, something's happened. And, things like that, or, and timeline. If it's, if the book starts on Monday and the next day it's Friday, that's not how the week works. And so those are the kind of things that I'm reading for. And so, although I do read the story, of course, and I follow the story, and if there's something that's just like completely unbelievable, or if I'm trying to think of or if somebody has quoted song lyrics, for instance, in their book, it's my job to say, hey, you probably need permission for that. And so it's mine is more about mechanics and structure and syntax. And if somebody's constantly writing in the passive voice, I'll mention that and give them some examples of how they can change that. So the stories for me as an editor are secondary to how it is written. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, totally. And
I don't
Mark
know if I answered
chimed
your
in.
question.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. And Mark chimed in. He says he loves you because, with regards to timelines, it drives him crazy in books when people mess it up. And so, yeah.
Well, good. Thanks, Mark. It is a fascinating job. I love it. I've been doing it since 1996. I started with the For Dummies books, which are not fiction, obviously. But what's interesting about those books is they were written by experts in the field, not by writers. And so they desperately needed copy editors because most of them overwrote. And so I started with those, and I did a lot of college textbooks and reference books and that kind of thing. And then one day someone asked me, do you edit fiction? And I was like, sure, let's give it a shot. And man, I just fell in love. My first fiction book, I can't remember what it was. It was with Avon, but I can't remember what the book was, to be honest. But I've just edited so many great fiction writers, and I love fiction. And so I don't do anything but fiction now. So
I feel like what you do is incredible work, because I think back to when I had my first editor, and she just like completely rebuilt how I wrote in the way that's like, you have the basics and you can obviously like craft a story, but there is a way that you could really make this shine. And now when I'm writing, I like hear her voice in the back of my head, and it's like, oh, like how would my editors want me to say this, because I know that there's a better way than what's currently on the page. So I think that the work that you do to build those manuscripts up is it's so wonderful. It's so needed.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you feel that way. A lot of authors, not a lot, some authors don't really want people messing with their words. And, I think the thing that a development editor's job is to work that story out with you. A copy editor's job is to make that story shine without changing your voice. Mm-hmm. And I just have such a heart for author's voice. And I'm sure that comes from the fact that I'm an author myself, and I don't want people messing with my voice either. And so if you can fix the issues without changing the author's voice, then you've done your job. And that is my goal, is to keep that author's voice so that they come through, and yet they come through with, correct grammar and spelling, and, the timeline's right. So
I think if I could go back to my younger self and say, like, hey, if the one thing that you learn in this process is that your editor is not trying to tear you down, they're trying to build you up. Because I definitely, what you had just said about, like, there are authors that are like, don't want people touching their work. I definitely have that feeling when I open up a manuscript and I see comments running down the side where it's just like, stab, 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 stab. And like, it's painful to be like, oh man, like this didn't transpose well, or what I was trying to say didn't come across. But reading those comments in a helpful, guiding way, rather than being like, you're awful, is that like that mentality that I had to tell myself, like, Sarah, this is not how, your editor is actually speaking to you. That like changed my attitude. Like I did a complete 180, and then it was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that, I was kind of fighting this for so long.
I always want my authors to know that I'm their friend and that I am there to help them. And one way that I do that is if I make a change, I don't ever make a change, but if I recommend a change, I'll say, what do you think about that? At the end of whatever I've written, I'd say, what do you think? Because really that's the bottom line. What do they think? And also I try, and I don't really have to try to do this. I always find things in manuscripts that just delight me or charm me or make me laugh or make me cry, or, I say that to them. I don't just read the manuscript and, make all these mechanical changes and suggestions and things. I'll say, wow, that was gorgeous, or love the imagery, or, you made me cry. Congratulations, And so, I really try to be in touch with them so that when they go through there, they don't just see this huge bleeding red all over their manuscript, but rather, oh, she took time and she paid attention and she knows what I'm trying to say. And, and she respects my voice. That's the biggest thing. I just feel so strongly. You respect that author's voice. So that's it.
I wonder.
So, I guess that's one of the things that people who, it's easy for us kind of on the inside, I think, as writers, as editors, we know these things, or at least we should know these things. But I think one of the things is that people so often tend to think of writers as, it's a solitary thing, the writer working away over the keyboard or whatever. But it really is, at the end of the day, to get a book published, whether it's traditionally or independently, it's a collaborative effort. And, and that's one of the things that I learned early on, is that the only competition an author has is with themselves, because everybody else that who is working with that author, they're trying to help that author make the best story they can. And so that's a valuable lesson. And, thank goodness for folks like you, Nan.
Oh, thank you. I feel so appreciated. You guys are so sweet.
Now, I know that you both, because JC, you had a previous life in the romance genre, which I would love to hear about as well. But I would love to just know, how you guys became connected in the industry together and how that carried you to where we are in this moment.
Go ahead, JC.
Well, yeah. So when I first started writing, as a number of folks who have, heard me tell this story many times, the first book that I started writing in 2011 turned out to be a romance. I didn't know it at the time, but I went with it. And so as I got through the point that, I'd finished my first draft and I knew that I needed to, I'd gotten the bug. It's kind of one of those things that you hear a lot of authors talk about. First thing I want to do, all I want to do is write a book. All I want to do is finish that manuscript and then I'll be done. And so I did that. It's like, okay, well, this is kind of a cool story. What else can I do? And so one of the things that I was able to find was the Indiana Romance Writers of America chapter. And for those of you who don't know, the Romance Writers of America is a national organization that really is the preeminent professional organization for romance writers. And so they have a number of chapters throughout the country, North America. They're also affiliated romance writers organizations worldwide too. So I got hooked up with the Indiana chapter, and then that's where I met Nan through the chapter in person. And one of the things that I have always said, and this is an opportunity to say it again to kind of a new crowd, is that yes, being a dude writing romance is very much out of the ordinary. That's, there's even kind of a line that romance is the genre of storytelling of books written by women for women. But, every now and then there's an oddball like me. And the ladies of the Indiana Romance Writers of America took me in. It was just like never any what are you doing here, guy? Are you just kind of like being a perv hanging out with these women? No, they realized that I was trying to learn my craft. And so they were just people like Nan and Liz, who's watching, kind of took me under their wings. And so we've fortunately for me managed to stay connected and stay friends. A couple of years ago, it was a lot of fun because Nan and Liz did a book signing at a local winery in north central Indiana. So my wife, Nancy, and I got to go hang out with them for a few hours while they were doing their signings. We drank wine, and it was just a lot of fun. So
it was a great day.
It was. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah. I love my mystery community, but I tell you what, romance writers are the bomb, the absolute best.
We have had so much fun with Jim. I think was it 2014 or 2016 that we were all in Chicago together at Spring Fling.
2014, yeah.
2014, and he was our token dude, and
Yeah.
we just kind of swept him along in this group of women who were going to all these events, and we just had such a good time. Kristen Higgins spoke at that one. She was amazing, and it was just so much fun. He wore his kilt to dinner, to the banquet that night, and we all got a huge kick out of that. And so it has been really fun. And what's really been fun for me anyway is to watch him make this transition from romance writer, which he was very good at, to cozy mystery, which I think he's really found his niche. And because your cozies are just so much fun, I love them. And it's been a treat to watch him grow as a writer. The editor in me is like, oh, cool, So it's been a lot of fun, and it's always fun when he and Nancy come to our events. So I'm hoping you're going to come December 4th. I'm going to be back up at Whitehorse road trip.
Oh, December 4th, yeah, do me, yeah, mm-hmm. Absolutely. Nancy was actually asking. It's like, so are they doing another one of those again? So
December 4th.
Now,
all right,
Nan,
cool.
How did you find that romance was your genre to write in? Did you start there, or did you kind of like where JC began in romance and found mystery? Is it, you're writing something else and found romance?
I will tell you the truth. I wrote my first romance novel when I was 10 years old. My sister and one of the members of the Herman's Hermits had a little romance. I wrote it all in little composition notebooks. It took like 6 of them. And I just fell in love with love. I am a hopeless romantic. I always have been. And my mother used to read to us, and she read, I don't know if you know who Jean Stratton Porter is. She's an Indiana author. And she wrote the first romance hero I ever fell in love with, David Langston from The Harvester. And I thought, that's what I want to do. And I mean, I've just always wanted to be a writer. And romance just felt like where I belonged from the very beginning. And so I have never tried to write anything else, although I've sometimes thought about a cozy, but I just don't know that I have that kind of a mind. And so the closest I ever came was in the first books I wrote, The Women of Willow Bay. They're out there. They're not sweet romance. They've got a little bit more. Well, the door's open. Let me put it that way. And the third one in that series is called The Summer of Second Chances, and it's got a little romantic suspense in it. Let's put it that way. So I wrote this little mystery, and at the time I was doing it, Liz and I had started kind of, being like writing buddies, and I was driving myself crazy because I just had so much going on in this book, just too much going on in this book. And I would call her or contact her and say, I'm going crazy. I'm writing everything into this book. We can't have mobsters and and murder. Blah, blah, blah. We can't have all this in the same book. And I was confusing myself. So my editor at that time was Lonnie Diane Rich, and she really helped me trim that book back and turn it into something that was fun and entertaining and had a little bit of mystery to it. But after I wrote that book, I was like, I'm going to stick with romance. It had a good romance in it too.
And the world is better because you made that choice.
Oh, thank you.
I think, Nan, the point that you brought up about trimming is a really interesting one, because I'm kind of going through the same thing myself with the current manuscript that I'm working on. And it just gets to be a point where it's like, I've got way too many characters involved in this, and like trying to figure out like, okay, well, who can I keep, who can go, and whittling it down to something that's manageable. And because you have in your, so I am reading the Lang Brothers series with Beck as the oldest of the Lang brothers,
which I just happen to have right here.
And I am, because it's the third one in the series, correct?
It is, yes.
So as reading this one first, I'm not feeling like I'm missing out on like backstories or anything of the characters that are around. And I'm wondering how you decide, because his brothers are popping up, and their companions are popping up alongside them, and there are definitely the moments where I was like, oh, I feel like there's a story here, but I'm more focused on Beck right now, so I'm going to keep going. And I just wonder, like, how you decide, like, how much to share with your audience versus how much to just kind of like leave it there and let your focused hero have his story.
That really is a learned thing, I think. Because when I first started writing these books, I was overwhelmed. I keep saying Liz will tell you, but Liz will tell you. I was overwhelmed with all the people involved. And I realized that I was going to have to write one book per brother for the four Irish brothers, one book per brother for the Lang brothers, and continuing on with that with the next books. And so then you just have to get really picky about, you have to be able to tell the story. And I think, I don't know that I've mastered the art, but I think that enough of the other people, enough of the secondary characters to make people think, oh, I wonder if they have a story. Maybe I'll look and see. That's what I'm going for, which sounds tacky, but I want people, no matter what book they pick up, each one stands alone. And that's interesting that you should mention it, because one of the things that I read in reviews a lot is, this is my first Nan Reinhardt book, and it might be this one, which is my seventh. And now I want to go back and find the others. And that's what I want people to feel when they read these books. What a great story. Now I want to go back and find the others. And so I just think it's a fine line, and maybe a learned art that, I learn it with every book, because I will stick way too much on in a book still, and then have, my editor will go, we really don't need that. And so I've got to go back and trim some. And I think that anytime you write a series, that will happen. You'll end up, as I said, the town becomes a character, and all the secondary characters, you're like, oh, I really love that guy. I want him to be in this book too. Well, he can only be in the book if he's got a role to play. And not everybody in the town has a role to play in every single book. But, you're aware when you're reading, if you're reading from the beginning and on, you're aware that they're there, and they may turn up again. Mm-hmm. Who knows? So.
Well, I tell you what, this always happens, Nan. We're already halfway through.
Oh my gosh.
Just
really
having a good time. And so this is kind of one of the highlights of the evening. It is time for your super, super, super duper de-duper generous giveaway. I'm going to throw it over to Sarah to kind of talk about how we all do this. And Sarah, take it from here.
For sure. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, make sure, if you aren't already, that you're logged into either your Gmail or your YouTube account so that you can access the chat feature. But what we do is we have a magic word that we will have everyone enter into the chat, and we'll let that run for the rest of the show. And then I will do our fun little random number generator algorithm in the background here at the end to announce our winner. And we have an amazing prize package. Nan, off the top of your head, do you know everything that you're giving away, or would you like me to read the list here?
Why don't you read the list?
All right. We've got this is one of the most generous giveaways we've had so far. So we have a signed copy of A Small Town Christmas, which is the
this one.
first. Was that the first?
The very first
River's Edge book. River's Edge map notebook, and I'm going to talk about your book map after we get done with this because I love it. A handmade bracelet, a $10 Amazon gift card, and some Tool Publishing swag. So we have got, if you're on our Instagram account, you can see there's a picture of all of the stuff that you have to look forward to. So our magic word for this evening, Nan, would you like to tell the audience what our magic word is and what the significance is of it?
The magic word tonight is Paris. So if you put Paris in the chat, you'll be entered in the giveaway. And it's just my favorite place in the world, pretty much. I mean, I'm a Francophile. I have a lighted, you can't see it, but I have a lighted Eiffel Tower in the corner in my office. And I have the Eiffel Tower being built up there. And I just have a lot of love for France and Paris. So we did Paris.
Excellent. So for our audience members, make sure you put the word Paris in the chat and you'll be entered in to this wonderful holiday giveaway.
Yeah.
All right, so I need to talk about your book map because I
Okay.
love book maps. It's
I
like
do too.
any book that has a book map in it automatically is like up here on my like, oh, I'm like so into this
Yeah, I do
already.
too. I
Um,
don't know if you can see
yeah,
the
if
book
we
map.
if
Yeah, there's
it's
a book map.
it's so cute and like I fell in love with the town looking at it right away. I think the first book map that I ever fell in love with was in a little book I had as a kid that was called Millie Molly Mandy, and it was just like I think there's like more to the title than that, but there was a book map in front of all of the stories in the series, and I just loved it. And so I'm curious why you chose to put a book map because not all books have them, and how it like kind of came together.
Well, I have a client that I edit for, and she has this whole series of books. Her name is Liz Kelly, and her books are The Heroes of Henderson. And if you just want some fun, pretty racy, delightful books, you want to read Liz Kelly. She's just amazing. And she has a website, and on her website, she has this fabulous map that someone did for her. And I thought, what a cool idea. I would love to do that with The River's Edge. Kind of almost more for me than readers because I've described the town so much, and even the map isn't exactly right, I confess. But so I talked to my daughter-in-law, who is the she's like the director of operations for Nickel Plate Arts in Noblesville, Indiana, and she knows a lot of artists. And I thought maybe I'll just figure out how much, if this would be prohibitively expensive to have someone draw me a map. And she found an artist for me. And this artist made me this amazing map based on a rough map I drew. My husband actually drew of Madison. And I'm going to see if I can take this down because this is what she did for me.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know if you can see it. It's just amazing. And it's a watercolor. And it's just so beautiful.
That's beautiful.
And so then my husband and I took the watercolor to Staples and had to make a PDF of it. And then they made me the little stickers that go on the notebooks that are part of the prize tonight. And I sent it. I talked to my publisher about it, and they were just totally jacked and loved the idea of having maps in the book. Mm-hmm. And I have had a lot of readers say, "Oh man, it's so cool to have a map in the book because now we know where Max is, and we know where the Riverwalk is, and So it's been fun to have the map. I love it, and I will confess to you, I do refer to the map on occasion when I'm writing, because I don't always remember which street crosses which street.
I do the exact same thing. I have my future sister-in-law created the map of the Realm of Virtues for my Court of Mystery series. And I like anytime I always have it up to be like, which like nations do they have to go to get to this point? Like, where are we going? And all of this stuff. So it's definitely an aid for me as much as I love the look of having a book map in the front of a book. It's definitely like it's one of my crutches. It's like, I can't think of this world. I need a visual of it because I don't have it all in my head.
Yep. I always forget that the numbered streets are going east and west. Because in Indianapolis, they go east and west. You'd think I could hold on to that, wouldn't you? But I'm always like, wait a minute, where's 7th Street again? So it's good to have the map.
JC,
my favorite map story.
Yeah, I'd like to know. I think that'd be fun because obviously I also am like a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and so the map of Middle Earth is like the map of all maps.
Yes.
But JC, I'd be curious if you have a map that always comes to mind.
Well, no, it's that, and especially because I remember when especially younger kiddo Aiden was little, I would read the Lord of the Rings to him. And at night, and I have this gorgeous, my sister gave it to me, this gorgeous leather bound limited edition Lord of the Rings hardback that has a fold out map.
Oh, wow.
And so Aiden would always want to like go back to the map, and it's like, okay, now where is this thing here? Where is that? And it was just so much fun. And so Lord of the Rings and is, my main map story. I also use maps, like especially with my Ollie Cobb stories. Those were the town of Russian Creek, Indiana is based on the real life Nashville, Indiana. So my maps aren't nearly as pretty as Nan's.
You guys are so lucky to like live in places that are like, I'm going to base a cozy mystery or a sweet romance off of this place, because I would never base any any book in the places that I have lived. So I need to relocate. It sounds like Indiana's got a lot of perks to lend itself to it.
Sarah, come on, you're on Long Island. You're like, a stone's throw from the Hamptons, right? So
yes. But
oh my goodness. You don't need a map for that. That's just gorgeous all by itself.
I could afford to be there for like an afternoon.
Nan, one of the things we also kind of wanted to ask you about is you're an editor, you're a writer, you're also a blogger. You have your own blog. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my blog is on my website, nanreinhardt.com. I'm the easiest author in the world to find because I use my name. My name is Nan Reinhardt. And so I use it for everything. So when I'm on Twitter, I'm at Nan Reinhardt. I'm at Nan Reinhardt on Instagram. I'm nanreinhardt.com. I'm Nan Reinhardt on Facebook. So I'm easy to find. But I started my website back in, I think it was 2012. And my son is my guru. And just the last couple of years, he redid the website. So I love it now. It's so much more open and pretty. And the front of the website is a blog. And on my blog, every Sunday, I do what I call the Sunday snippet. And it's either just, what's going on in my life. Not that anybody really cares that much, but sometimes it helps to write it out. You know what I mean? And frequently, it's a snippet from whatever book I'm working on. Just a little piece of, hey, here's what's going on.
Oh, that's nice.
And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, I have author profile, and that's where I invite other authors from everywhere to come and be on the website. And they can write a blog, they can, do an article, or they can do book promo. My only request is, keep it PG. That's because my books are PG, and so I try to keep my blog the same way. But I love having other authors on. It's just so much fun. I have this wonderful interview that I can do with authors, and my favorite question of every author, if you could invite 3 people, living or dead, to dinner, who would it be? They always have the most fascinating people. It's people I would never expect, So it's just so much fun to talk to them and learn about their process and how they write and what they're writing. And my schedule is like completely booked all the way through to January 13th. So I'm delighted that people want to be there. I love it that they want to be there. And they can do giveaways if they want to, which is always fun. I have found, I will tell you, that comments on blogs are pretty scarce. People come and they read the blog, and then they'll comment on Facebook where you've promoted the blog. You're like, wait a minute, I need you to comment on the blog, but whatever. But the guest authors bring traffic to the blog, and I really appreciate that. So I'm having fun with it. I love to blog. Liz and I talk about that all the time. Hi, Liz. She's a wonderful blogger. She's just brilliant at it. And I don't know that I'll ever be as good as she is, but I do love writing the blog. It's just like writing practice, So it's fun. I like it.
I will say having a functioning website and a author blog was one of the big challenges when I, first started out, just because I felt like I was dedicating all of my brain power to my book or to querying, marketing, what have you. And it was just like this insurmountable task that I had a really hard time, dedicating time and focus to. But doing opening my blog up to author interviews, that would just like put such a new like refreshing spin on it, and being able to meet so many different people through that avenue, and just to learn more about them. And I like to kind of poke people for like, what are your tips for writing? What's a tool that you use? Because
Yes.
I'm always looking for new tools that are, the productivity or writing tools. And it's been a really good thing for me personally, because it's helped me get into that habit of blogging, because I am not a blogger.
I tried when I first had the blog, I tried writing every day and it just
Mhm.
didn't work. It just didn't work. I couldn't write books, edit, and do the blog every single day. And so having one day a week where it's me and it's Sunday, so it's a Sunday snippet, and I usually write it on Saturday, sometimes Friday if I'm really efficient, but I usually write it the day before, and so it goes up automatically. And I set up my author. I try to have my authors ready to go a week before. And so it all kind of happens pretty seamlessly as long as everybody's, including me, is doing what they're supposed to be doing. But it has just been a really wonderful experience. I
Um,
like it.
if we have authors watching who are interested in appearing on your blog, Nan, how do they reach out to you?
I would love it if there were authors who wanted to be on the blog. Absolutely, JC. I'd love to have you back.
I've been on there before. It's
And
fabulous.
Sarah, I'd love to have you
Yes,
too.
please. I don't want to plug,
Just
but I definitely.
get in touch with me at nan@nanreinhardt.com. It's so easy because everything's Nan Reinhardt. Nan@nanreinhardt.com will get you to me and we'll set up a time. I have at the moment, it looks like the last part of January is open and the last half of February and all of March. So
So booking into
I'd love
2013,
to.
no, not 2013. Oh my gosh,
No, 2023.
2023 and
Yes, I
beyond.
am. Yeah. The only time I have open in the rest of this year is Thanksgiving Day, which I really wasn't convinced anyone would want to be on the
Mm.
blog on Thanksgiving Day, and December 29th, which is another day that it would be. No, December 29th is taken. I'm sorry. So the only day I have left in this year is Thanksgiving Day. So,
Well, Sarah,
yeah.
don't you have a book coming out in February of next year? Hint, hint.
Oh,
Hopefully.
Sarah.
Yes, hopefully. That's the plan. Yes. And I'd love to at some point, hopefully soon, I'm going to be doing a fun title reveal as part of our little bookish hour thing that we have going on. So that'll be like a fun
Oh, that
treat
will be
for
fun.
our viewers to look forward to when the time comes. But yes, book 2 and the trending topic mysteries will be trending everywhere, hopefully on in
I
February.
would love it. I would love it if you trended onto my website. That
I
would be
will
great.
There
definitely
we
reach
go.
out then.
Excellent. Nan, this has just been fabulous, and I hate the fact that time is running short.
It always
Um,
does. Ugh.
I guess one of the things that I would love to know is that you are a hybrid author. I think when you and I first met, you were publishing independently,
I
and
was.
now you kind of moved over into now you're with a specific publisher, kind of going more traditionally these days. Talk a little bit about that. Kind of what your kind of writing journey has been.
I when I very first wrote my first book, not the one when I was 10, but the one when that once more from the top. That was the book of my heart. I loved that book, and I sent it to an agent who took it immediately. That's a long story that I won't go into, but she was really happy to have it, and she tried everything to sell it. And the reason she couldn't sell it, she got lots of great feedback about the writing and lots of great feedback about the story, except that the hero and heroine were too old, and so was the child in the story. The hero and heroine are 40 and 45, and the child is 15. They said, we can't sell a 15-year-old kid. He needs to be a little boy. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. He's a piano prodigy. He can't be a little boy. And the whole story was based on the fact that the woman kept this child from this man for 15 years. And that was the dynamic between them. So there's no way I could change that. So she finally said, I need you to write me this. And she sent me some books by by not Thule authors, I'm sorry, by Harlequin authors. Or maybe it was Silhouette. I can't remember, but category romance. She sent them to me. And she said, write me something like this. So I wrote the first book that was ever published, which was Rule Number 1. And that was published by a company called Bookstrand. And they were very kind. And the book did pretty well. But then they are really well known for their more erotic romances. And I don't write that. And so I felt like to sell them anything else would kind of be disingenuous on my part. And so I talked to my friend Lonnie Diane Rich, and she convinced me to go indie. So she helped me. She was wonderful. She did my covers. She did my copy editing. She did everything. And she's the one who, the second book in my series, she told me my hero was an asshole, which I thought was really unkind. But she was right. That was the bad part about it. She was so right. And we got rid of the first 10,000 words of that book. My heart. But anyway, so I did those 4 books indie, and the last one before I published it, I sent it to Thule and said, would you guys be interested in this book or the series? If do you buy already published things? And they said, we wouldn't be interested in buying anything that's already been published. However, would you be interested in writing something for us? And I said, sure. What do you want me to write? They were like, a brother series. So the Flahertys were born, and I will, for my friend Liz, I will tell you guys that I said to Liz, I need an Irish name. And she said, well, how about Flaherty? And I'm like, okay. So that's how we got the Flaherty brothers. And
well done, Liz.
I've just had so much fun in this little town. It's just been amazing to write this little town, and I've been so thrilled with how much people have loved it. And I have 3 books coming out in 2024, the Weaver Sisters, and then I just signed a new contract for 4 more.
Oh wow!
Books
well, that's exciting.
Taking place in River's Edge. So yeah, I'm excited. Wow. As long as they'll let me stay there, I will write there because I'm having the time of my life.
Excellent.
Oh, well, super. Well, that's exciting.
It is.
So, where can folks find these books?
They can find them anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere. And they come in, you can order them in print or you can order them as ebooks. And you can also go to tulepublishing.com, and they are there as well. They have a bookstore. So, and every so often they have fabulous sales, which I'll try to post on not only on my website, but also if it happens again on Facebook, they'll probably have one around Christmas time where they like all the ebooks are 50% off. It's great.
Ooh, nice.
Because they have some amazing authors. I mean,
like you.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but I'll let you say it. They really do have a lot of amazing authors. I just love working with Thule. They're the best publishing company. They're just great. So,
well, super. Well, it has become that time where we are kind of needing to kind of wrap up. Before that, though, before we do our what are you watching, what are you listening to, what are you reading segment, Sarah, you want to give everybody a quick recap about the giveaway?
Yes, please. It is still open. We'll pull right at the end of the hour. So, folks, if you haven't already entered into the amazing giveaway that we have this evening, again, Nan is generously giving a signed copy of A Small Town Christmas, perfect for the holiday season coming up, a River's Edge map notebook, a handmade bracelet, a $10 Amazon gift card, and some is it Thule? I guess I was saying it wrong. Thule publishing swag. So a really nice bundle. So make sure the magic word for our giveaway is Paris. So if you haven't gotten your entry in yet, make sure that you get that in. And I'm going to be doing my magic over here to make sure we have our winner. But yes.
Yeah. Super. So while Sarah is doing that, we, Nan, kind of like we talked about, now is when we kind of do our little bit of what are you watching, what are you reading, what are you consuming as far as media or whatever. how about you, Nan? How about you lead us off? If there is something you're reading that you really want to do a shout out, if you're watching something, if you're listening to a podcast, whatever, share away, please.
Well, I just did a podcast myself last night that will be coming out on Saturday, I think, called Categorically Romance, and it's Aaron and Bree, and they just do a great job interviewing. They were a lot of fun to talk to, just like you guys are. I had a really great time with them. I just finished reading The Paris Library. It's a book about World War II and the American Library in Paris, and how they worked with the resistance to help save books that were being burned. So that was a really interesting story. I also would totally push my friend Liz's Second Chance series that's out. The last book in the series just came out last month, maybe this month. And it's called Summer of Sorrow and Dance, which that title is so pretty. And the book is just wonderful. So all three of them are great, and they all stand alone, but they're wonderful. This newest one is really great. My husband and I watch a ton of British television. I don't know why. We're addicted to British television. We have BritBox and Acorn, and we don't have like Paramount and Disney. We have BritBox and Acorn, and we just watch a ton of television. I'll tell you one thing that we just recently watched that we just got the biggest kick out of was this program called Canal Journeys, and it's this couple who are actors who when they're not on a stage, they're on their narrow boat. It's this huge long boat that's like 10 feet wide and 60 feet long. And they go up and down the canals of England and Ireland and Scotland and France and Netherlands. I never knew that there were all these canals in Europe. It's just amazing. And they are a delightful couple, just an absolutely delightful couple. So that's what we're doing.
That's a fun one.
And I did just watch my grandson perform in our town.
Oh,
so
nice.
It was sweet to see his very first acting job. He did a great job.
Very good. Very good. How about you, Sarah?
Besides The Fireman's Christmas Wish, I just started reading Don't Look for Me by Wendy Walker, or I'm listening to it on audiobook. I'm a big fan of Wendy's books, and actually had like the amazing privilege of talking to her on the phone when I was first like starting out, because she knew someone that I worked with, and she's like, oh yeah, she'd love to talk to you, and I was just like, oh my god. That was like a pretty, like, I still can't believe that happened moment. So I'm reading or listening to her latest book, and then watching. I am finishing finally the Rings of Power on Amazon, the Lord of the Rings series. I'm really liking it. I know there's some discourse about it amongst true fans of Tolkien, but I am thoroughly enjoying it. But I am definitely looking forward to finishing it so that I can watch The Crown on Netflix, the new season. So
wonderful, yes.
That's me. What are you up to?
Yeah. Nancy's a Crown watcher, so I gave her the high sign yesterday that the new season has dropped. So she didn't watch any, hasn't started watching it yet. But I am going to mention something that she's been watching that I've watched a little bit too. That's just been so much fun. Hot in Cleveland. I don't know if.
It's a fun.
Yeah,
That's
there
so
we go.
good.
It's sorry, Liz. It's or Nan. It's on. It's we get it on Paramount, but it's it was originally TV Land, featuring Betty White, Wendy Malick, Jane Leaves, Valerie Bertinelli.
Yeah, Valerie. Yeah.
And it's just so much fun because not only are these some amazing, incredibly gifted actors, they have so many fabulous guest stars. they've had anybody from Carol Burnett to Mary Tyler Moore to
Oh, how
Tim
fun.
Conway, and it's just been a lot of fun. And Renee agrees with me,
We
and
got a lot of fans in our
Laura
chat.
does too. That, yeah, hot in Cleveland. So if you get a chance, it's one of those that Nancy is always on the lookout for, kind of fun half-hour shows. So, hot in Cleveland, of course, we watched Schitt's Creek, I don't know how many different times. So that's kind of what we're watching. And as far as reading, I'm reading Fireman's Christmas Wish. And I love the fact that Becker is, whether he wanted to be or not, hope I'm not giving too much away, but he's become a cat dad. So,
Yes,
right here, drink wine, pet cat, repeat.
Repeat.
So,
Aw.
I will tell you, Jim, husband's favorite thing is Monday Morning Maria. I have to show it to him on Instagram every Monday morning. I hold it up and he goes, Maria. So he's in love with your cat.
Well, wonderful. That's
How
great.
could you not be? She is a star.
She's so pretty. She is. She's got such personality.
You two are too kind. She would agree with both of those sentiments, by the way. So that's kind of, and that's what I've been watching and reading. And so, wow, it's 9.
It's 9.
Time's flown.
How
Our
did that
bookish
happen?
hour has come to an end. Well, but not yet because we have to pull our winner. For Nan, to let you know, we will send our winner's information to you once we receive it.
Okay.
And for our winner this evening for this wonderful holiday prize pack is, drum roll, Chelsea Walters.
Woo!
There
Congrats,
we go.
Chelsea.
Congratulations, Chelsea. If you could please send your mailing address to our email, giveaways at thebookishhour.com. Congratulations. For all of those of you who joined us tonight live and were here sharing in this hour with us, thank you for being here. It was wonderful to have you. Nan, this was the cozy, warm, good feeling evening that I needed. Thank you, especially after a stressful week. Definitely, this brings those good vibes that I think we all need as we head into the weekend. So thank you very much for being
Sarah.
here.
It was so wonderful to be with both of you. Jim, it's so good. JC, it's so good to see you.
This is, Nan, when you contacted us a few months ago about this, I was just so thrilled. Because like I said, when we first started talking, it's like, hey, it's the Bookish Hour. It's not just the mystery Bookish Hour. And so it's so great to have, somebody not only outside of Sarah and my genre, but, Nan, you're just fabulous. I love you.
Oh, thank you. Right back at you.
It's just been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Yes,
I really
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you for being here. And for our viewers, we will be back. Actually, our because of the holidays coming up, we've got a special December schedule. We're going to be back actually on the first Thursday of the month. And our guest is going to be Ellen Byron, which we are very excited to host. So keep either subscribed to our channel, keep in touch with us on social media for more information for our upcoming episodes. And again, thank you so much for sharing your evening with us. We will see you and have a wonderful weekend. Bye, everybody.